Hello, Startup Talkie. Here I've gone live. So I'll start taking your questions. Thanks a lot for joining. I think I'll just wait for a little while before people start joining, and then we can start at full flow. Okay, I can see 3 people have joined. All right. Let them coming. So you can post your questions in the comment, and I'll go through them and I'll answer them. It's been a while. I mean, it's just been a week that I did a live video with Abhinav, a good friend. So I felt maybe the gap was too less to do another one. But regardless, we can always do one more, and I would try and make it so that it's not repetitive. Yep. So before we start, a bit of introduction about myself. I'm Saptarshi. I'm a self-taught product designer. I'm an engineer turned manager turned product designer. I've worked with a couple of startups here in India, starting with housing.com. Then I worked with Zeta, and I presently work at Swiggy. I lead consumer experiences at Swiggy. Would love to speak about, or would love to answer any queries about product design, career switching, freelancing, public speaking, travel, anything, whatever you wish to. So let's do it. Okay, so Avanish Vikram Singh says that found you from Motion Lovers Group. Are you a motion designer? Yes, I'm a motion designer, you can say. That's more like my hobby. I love doing motion design. But yes, I'm a product designer, so everything kind of comes under that umbrella. So yes, I'm a motion designer as well. I hope that answers your question. Okay, people are joining. I want to know fetch. All right, Siddharth Mohan has a question here. He says, hi Saptarshi, I want to know how to fetch for a designer and what should be the skill which makes sure we should hire there. Okay, so this question is about hiring. Interesting. So this wasn't discussed in the previous Q&A that I did. So thank you, Siddharth, for the question. I can sympathize with you because even I'm hiring right now at Swiggy. There are a couple of openings that we have, but finding the person who's right for your organization, right for the role that you're looking for is indeed a difficult task. Now, coming to a question which says how to find the right designer and what should be the skill. Again, depends on what you're looking for, what you want the designer to. Let me answer it from a perspective of a smaller team. Assuming you work for a startup, since this is startup talking. So if it's a smaller team, so you first need to identify why would you need another designer? Is it because your workload is high and you just need extra pair of hands to support you? Or is it because you have done everything possible and yet you're not able to derive the results that you would want? Or is it something, a new skill, or is it a new dimension that you would want to add to your product, which would need additional skill set? Is that the reason you're hiring? So the answer would be different in all the cases. If you just need a pair of hands who will support you with your work, which you're already doing, which would just speed up the process, then maybe you can get a junior designer who can be mentored, who's fairly good with his tools, and who's coachable, and of course who has a good attitude. If you want to just up your game and you're not sure of what to do when you're doing, then maybe it's time to hire someone who's a little more senior. Maybe someone at the level of lead who comes with a bit of experience, so that the ambiguities, the things, the blockages that you have in your product design process, that person can come and clear it. Or if you're looking for something else, say your UX, everything is good, but your visuals are not to the mark, or maybe you need some illustrations, or a bit of motion design maybe, then you might have to get a specialist or someone who has been doing that for a while. Say you need an illustrator, for example. So yeah, so that's how you write your job description and you hire the right people. As a generic answer, I would also give what you look in a designer. First of all, I see the attitude. Then I see his problem-solving capabilities. Can the person think? Can he break down problems, analyze it, and come up with some solution? Whether the solution is right or wrong, good or bad, is secondary. Is he able to break down a problem and come up with some sort of solution? That is second. And the third one is your attitude and how will the person fit into the team. Yep, that's pretty much it. Hope I've answered your question. We have a next question here from Vikramaditya. How do designers collaborate with developers in a big startup like Swiggy? How iterations work for design changes with developers? Okay, that's again a question which is very specific to Swiggy. Yep, I will let me answer that with respect to Swiggy. Yes, we are a big startup, but I wouldn't say that we have reached a stage where we have a lot of processes and lots of hierarchies and levels which would slow down the process. Luckily, we haven't been there yet. But the collaboration of developer with developers is very important. So to give you an example, so if you're designing something new, say a new feature or a product that we're building, that we are designing, we first start with a meeting which we call it the Kickoff Meeting, where we have stakeholders from different departments, the design, the product management, business, and of course, the tech team, the developers. So all these people, they sit together and they analyze the problem and they try and come up with something, right? And then after the first level of this work, which involves, say product managers and designers, when they have, figured out that this is probably we can go about with initial set of wireframes or maybe an initial prototype which can be shown to people. Then we interact with the developers, we show them and understand the feasibility. Is this even possible? Or even if it's possible, at what cost? Will it take a lot of time? Is it even worth doing? So we identify all the problems and then we further make changes to it, depending on some feedback from developers. And then, based on taking all this feedback, we continue and do the whole thing and then say build up and start. Of course, there are lots of steps in between which I haven't mentioned because it's not relevant to the question today. Another part where we spend a lot of time with the developers is towards the end, where the development is almost ending. We call it PP or pixel perfection, which is very important for any product, especially consumer-facing product like Swiggy. So that's a process when the designer and the developer they sit side by side, right beside each other, and the designer says, yeah, move 2 pixels down, 2 pixels up, because no matter how good a tool like Zeppelin that you use for handover, there's always some sort of gaps which remain. So that can be solved by sitting together, by pairing up and doing that pixel perfection. And iterations, of course, in the first level, I've already told you a couple of iterations. The second level of iterations comes when we get some sort of feedback from the people, from the users, say after we have launched the product or after we have tested it out with a few potential users. And based on that also, we go back and make changes. So the entire process of product development or designing is highly iterative, highly collaborative, something which is also defined as agile. That's essentially what it is. I hope I answered your question. Okay, Kaushal Thakkar says, as you said, you are a self-taught product designer. What made you choose this field and the challenges you faced throughout your journey? Okay, that's about myself. I'm an engineer. I belong to an Indian middle-class family. Luckily, no one forced me to be an engineer. Unlike many others, where your parents say that you need to do engineering. I chose engineering because that was a good thing that you could do. It would get you a job at the earliest, maybe in the 4th year of your study or the 3rd year of your study. So I felt it's a good thing to do. And it was about machines. Yes, I love cars, computers. I thought engineering would be something related to that. And hence I started preparing for IIT, and by God's grace, I made it. And after joining my college, I discovered that engineering was a little different from what I thought it would be. It's a lot more theoretical, or let me put it this way, a little more theoretical than my liking. But having said that, I liked what I did during my engineering. I'm an electrical engineer, and design was always my hobby. So I used to design, those T-shirts, those posters for the college fairs, which we put up across all the notice boards and all. So that's the kind of design that I did. I love designing, but I never thought, I would ever make it a professional, because I thought I never studied design. Come on, how can I even compete with all the big shots out there in the industry? So, I never thought of taking a job in design. Instead, I took a business job. Management was something that I loved. So my first campus placement was, an MBA job. I was a project manager at an NC out here in Bangalore. And, right then I had another friend, a senior, Ravi Teja, who's also a part of this group. I don't know if he's listening to me today. So he joined housing and he referred me to housing. That was my first design job, of course, keeping aside the freelancing job that I did as a student. That's when I started professionally designing. Now, coming to your specific question, you said, how difficult was it, or how challenging was it to get into this field? It wasn't much. I was given a design test, I did, I got it. What was more challenging was living up to the expectation of a team like housing, right? I joined housing back in 2015. Getting in is one of the challenges, the smaller challenge. But keeping up to the expectations of the best design team in India was tough. The initial days were not the best days that I would remember. I had to put in a lot of extra effort because that is not something I have been doing professionally. But luckily, probably I was a fast learner, or maybe I put a lot of effort, a lot of sleepless nights. Now I could make it up to the levels of housing, and rest of it had been pretty smooth sail through the journey. Yep. In fact, at times I feel my technical background actually helps me to take design decisions better, because I understand technology, I understand code better than my non-technical counterparts in the design industry. So that's an added benefit. I hope I answered your question. So here's a question from Santosh Maurya. He says, how to get ideas for social media designs, like if we are SMM? Brother, I do not know what SMM is. Do you mind telling me what it is? If you're asking me about social media designs, about banners, okay, let me assume if it's banners, then it's a problem that you're solving, right? To design a banner, maybe you're trying to communicate something. Maybe you're trying to say, hey, my product is now live. Just go and use it because it does this things. So what is that thing that you want the user to see and understand? Make that prominent. The fundamentals remain same, you just answer. Okay, so I was just told that SMM is social media marketing. Well, I'm not qualified to answer on that, but yes, I believe I cover the design bit of it. So yes, whatever you want to show, make sure that's prominent. How you do it depends on how creative you are. Okay, Santosh. The next question is from Ayush Jain. He says, hey Saptarshi, have seen the wonderful Swiggy office last year. Were you involved in designing the office as well? Wow. If you have seen the Swiggy office last year and you thought it was wonderful, then I guess you're mistaken, because we still do not have, that fancy, that beautiful office, which say a company like Swiggy deserves, but yes, we are working towards it. Well, no, I was not involved in office designing because I joined just 5 months back, and the present office, it's been the Swiggy office for quite some time. But the new office, of course, we are planning one. Yep, I'm not directly involved in it, but yes, my VP Srinath, who I report to, is a good friend. He's actively involved in bringing out that office. And I'm very confident he'll do a wonderful job. And once we have that office, Ayush, I will invite you to our office. You can come have a look, and then we can have a cup of coffee together. Okay, the next question is again by Siddharth Mohan. He says, how important is the role of a designer in a company, and what's the best stage in a company to hire an experienced and full-time designer? How important is the role of the designer? Very important, extremely important. In fact, that is one of the roles which starts right from the beginning, right from the scratch. When you're, say, starting up, you just have an idea in your mind. You need someone to visualize that idea, and that is done by designer. And it's not just about putting boxes or filling in colors and text. It's about understanding how you will visualize it, how you would want your users to understand your idea and get benefit out of it. Hence, you would see, lots of early stage startup. It's the co-founder himself who gets his hands dirty and designs the first few mocks, he may not be the best person at doing it, but and then it just needs a little bit of thinking. So yes, everyone can do it. The first part of your question, how important it is, extremely important. And the next stage is, and the next question that you asked, what is the best stage for a company to hire an experienced and full-time designer? Well, I would say the best thing would be to have a design co-founder, if that is possible. Everyone knows about Airbnb and companies like that. Well, started with a design co-founder. First, you save a lot of money because you do not have to outsource that service. Yes, design is expensive, let's agree. And the second thing is, a co-founder is something who would do the best for his own company. If you think of a part-time designer, he may or may not do his best job because his work is just to deliver something and impress the co-founders, and he's done. Well, of course, there are really good freelancers as well, whom I have known, but not everyone is like that. So, there's no right time to get a full-time designer. A very beginning could be a right time. Maybe you can start with someone who is less experienced, who has the potential to grow, so that he is not as expensive as the most experienced one. Then over time, you see that you have a certain amount of traction in your product, and say you raise some money and you're able to sustain. Maybe think of getting someone who's a little more experienced, which of course comes at a bigger cost. Where to find good experienced designer, how to contact them, brother? If you find that, do let me know. I don't have an answer to that. I'm also searching for it. But yes, some places are Dribble, Hands, or all the Facebook groups is where I look at. And nothing, of course, the networking event helps a lot. I mean the physical networking events where some design meetups or conferences. We just go and you get to know all the designers in the city because everyone comes. You network with them, you make friends with them, so that next time when you're thinking of someone, you have a lot of people to help you with. Even if they are not the right people, the right fit for the company, they could refer someone who is. So yeah. Okay, here's a question by Piyush. He says, creativity in UX is a rare and difficult quality where you come up with a new solution specific to the problem instead of mashing together existing flow. For example, the card swipe Tinder interface is pretty novel and now everyone copies it. Who are the most creative Indian UX designers you know? I would like to believe I am one of them. Okay, just kidding. There are many great designers out there. Indian designers, if you say, there are some people I really admire, people who I have looked up to. They are great friends as well. I would like to take two names, Rahul Bhosle and Ramakrishna. I totally admire them because I started designing, seeing their work as a benchmark. And I learned a lot from them, and they were forever ready to help me out or anything that I need. So, yeah, you should check out their portfolios on Dribble. They've done some really kick-ass work. Siddharth's question again, he says, how did Swiggy reach you and what made you convinced to work with them? Okay, that's about me again. So before Swiggy, I used to work for this company called Zeta. Great company, great product, amazing team. Everything is good about that company. I had no reasons to leave that company. I was completely comfortable. I was doing really good money, close to my home and whatnot. But then Swiggy happened. Someone reached out to me from Swiggy. It's a friend actually who had recently joined Swiggy then. He said that the VP of design wants to speak to you. Of course, Srinath, I've heard his name, but I've never spoken to him in person. I said, of course, when someone like Srinath says he wants to speak to you, you always go and speak, no matter whether you think of joining or not. So I had a phone call with Srinath, and it seemed really good. Swiggy seemed like that interesting product which I could work on. It was consumer facing. It was doing extremely well. The scale is really good. There are millions of users who is using that on a daily basis. These are additional motivations for a designer like me. When I think that I'm designing something and this will be used by lots and lots of people, probably everyone out there who's present in this Q&A today have used Swiggy. How good does it feel? It's not valid. The same thing I cannot say for every other company that I've worked for, right? Because everything else has a very niche audience. Swiggy, on the other hand, is everyone knows about it. But that was one of the reasons why Swiggy made it felt really exciting. And also, one thing which I had in my mind was food tech is a solved problem. Yeah, you want to eat, you want to sell biryani, put a picture, write the name, the price, and you just sell it. What's there, what's new there for me to do? But I was wrong. There are many things that can be done. There are many things that can be done with the existing technology and logistics that any company like Swiggy has. And after speaking to the team, I was convinced that this would be a good place for me to switch my job, and I did. I took that leap of faith, and it's been 5 months I'm working. I have no regrets. Okay, it's from Ayush Jain again. I believe there are great companies and great designers being underpaid. Thoughts? Totally. This is something that I've been discussing a lot. You and I could be the fortunate platform. We know each other. We are speaking about design, but we are still frogs in the well. And think about it. We are, in one small city in small country called India. Of course, not a small country, but the hustle bustle is happening somewhere else. So we are good, but maybe we are not being acknowledged to the extent we should be, right? So I feel from our side, if there's anything that we can do, we should make our presence felt. Maybe post our work online, let the world see them, get comments, get mentorship from the big shots of the industry out there in the world, and that's how we'll get to know. We'll get known. And also within India itself, there are a lot of amazing designers. Recently I had given a talk at a studio in Chennai, and even before that, I know a lot of people, amazing designers in Chennai, who do not want to come out of Chennai, say come to Bangalore, Mumbai, or any other place where there are more companies to work for, and because of which nobody knows them. There are people who may be better than many other people will look up to, but nobody knows them, and hence they're underpaid in whatever they're working, which is a very bad state to be in. So it's my sincere urge to all of you. If you think you're good at something, show it to everyone, because that's the only way of getting validation, and that increases your value. So here's a question from Anuj Agarwal. He says, what's the attribute composition required to be a lead product designer? Is human psychology one of them? Even if you remove that lead thing, human psychology is definitely one of them for product designer itself, because you're designing products for humans. It's very important that you understand how other humans feel or how they perceive things. That's essentially psychology. So it's one of the basics which every product designer, every UX designer should have. If you ask about what extras need to be a lead, I don't know, maybe a bit of experience, having worked in other companies, knowing what works, what doesn't work, or what has worked before, what hasn't worked before, and the ability to make a good rapport with your team, mentor a few people, your capacity to drive big projects without any extra support or from anybody else. I think, these all constitutes, these are the skills which probably would need to be a lead product designer, if you see that. Again, having said all this, the titles, they vary from company to company. Someone who's a lead at a company A could be a senior or perhaps even a junior in a company B. It depends on the maturity of the company and the kind of work that you're doing. Yeah. Okay, Santosh says, thank you. Welcome, Santosh. Welcome, Kaushal. So here we have this question from Rakesh. Working with highly funded startup like Swiggy, does that make any difference in making the right product? That's an interesting question and a very good one. Let me speak about the funding part first. One thing I can say for sure, at least from a Swiggy's point of view, that the fact that it's highly funded, the fact that it's stable today, doesn't make a lot of difference in the decisions that we make in the product. I'm pretty sure our decisions, the things that we do, would more or less be same, even if Swiggy had not been a highly funded startup, like you rightly said, right? But here, the difference comes here. We have a little more confidence to try out something and perhaps failing. because maybe we can take that, just because we have some money to back us up. That is one thing we couldn't have done if we didn't have the funding which we have. So I think that's the difference it makes. Now, if you ask about how does that make a difference in making the right product, I don't know. Like I said, maybe more experiments. There are more things that you can try out. And since you try out, something may work, which nobody else at start, which has potential but doesn't have the money to take that kind of a risk, would not do. So you're already one step higher, right? Just because you've taken that risk, and you could take that risk because you had the money. So in my opinion, I see that definitely as one of the differences. I hope that answered your question. May not be completely, but partially, hopefully. Okay, here we have a question from Donovan. He says, Saptarshi, your answers are excellent. Thank you. If you like my answers. Could you please talk about understanding of going from logical design of an app to the graphic UI of an app? What relationship between software engineering and a app in that relationship between software engineering and UI designer? Do you have a systematic approach to this crucial point where the product starts to come to life? Well, yes, I do have a process, but it's not rigid. If you just do a Google about design processes which are followed in, say, big companies or by the big designers, you would come up with a lot of listings. Read through them, and there'll be different ways of doing it, this method, that method. But, at the end of the day, these methods are all stuff which worked out of experience. And one wise person had taken them, consolidated them into one package, called it a process, and put it out on the internet so that everyone else who's, say, not as wise enough as him to take the right decisions could directly follow that as a rule. That's something we can do. But I think the crux lies in the fact that, yes, you have an approach, but you should also know when to break that approach, when to diverge and do something else, because what you're building needs that and not the textbook method. I think that is very important. If you ask about what my process is, it's pretty much standard. If you ask any designer, he might more or less give the same answer. If I'm starting something from scratch, which I have no idea about, go about doing a bit of research, a bit of reading, a bit of competitive analysis, finding out what competitors are doing. If there is any, maybe speak to a few users, potential users, let me put it that way, and go and understand, what are the problems that they're facing, if they're facing any problem, right? Because if there's nothing to solve, there's no point in design, there's no point in making. At the end of the day, you're making something to solve some problem, right? So after you've identified all those things, you figure out what you would do, what are the things you would do, what are the problems you'll solve. Then comes layouting, information architecture, what comes before, what comes later, how you lay down your information, what is important, what is not, what is less important and stuff. And once those things are figured out, and of course all these processes that I mentioned are iterative. You do something, you show it to someone, come back, get their feedback, come back, make changes. And then finally, when you think the flow that you made is more or less what you can go ahead with, you start making your app beautiful. And that's where the part of visuals come, right? You make it look good, you make it visible, it makes certain things stand out more than the other. All these things can be done with colors, visuals, illustrations, animations, and whatnot. Yep, I think that's pretty much I do. But having said that, for everything I do not do all the things that I mentioned, because I think and I see what is needed for doing this, and I filter my process based on what's needed. I hope that answers the question. Here's a question from Priya. Priya says, what basic process do you follow for UI UX, and which one is most important? Yeah, I think I've just answered the same question which Donovan had asked. I think your first part of the question is completely answered by that. And which one was most important? Well, I think the most important thing could be, identifying the problem. That is one important thing. And the other one is, doing something so that the problem is solved. It's like validating. You identify the problem, good. You've done your work, that is also good. finally what you've come up with, is it actually solved the problem, your initial intention? If yes, you've done a good job, or else go back and retry. Here's a question by Mohammed. Mohammed says, can you elaborate the design process for an early startup who's building their MVP? Okay, let's say there's no product designer involved, and how can you still find a solution through design? What are important steps to be considered? Okay, so you mentioned two important things here, which slightly changes the answer. Otherwise, it's similar to what I had said in the last questions. You've said that it's for an early stage startup who doesn't necessarily have a designer, and you've also spoken about MVP. So one thing which is a little different in an early stage startup is you need to churn out things really fast. You know, in a company which is slightly established, say like Swiggy, maybe I can take the liberty to do my research for 15 long days or maybe a month, and then come up with something, and I can say take my sweet 100 days to come and design something. But that doesn't work on early stage startups. You might have to do something in 2 days and show it to a potential investor and get your money. Yep, that's how it works in many places. My previous company where I had worked, Zeta, that used to be one of the things. Say we come and decide, product manager, we sit and decide that, hey, you know what, this is a feature we need to build. A certain company is asking for it. It would really add a lot of value. Within 2 days, we quickly conceptualize it. No time to go through all the process that I mentioned in my previous questions. We just use our intuition, maybe speak to a few people around, just show it a few designs to the peers, and we complete the flow. We make a working prototype in Marvel or Principle or something. We go show it to our client, get feedback, and we quickly build it. So that is the speed in which you ship products or you ship designs in an early stage startup. And this speed is really important, right? And if you want to achieve that kind of speed and you want a written down rule, you can read about the design sprints by Google Ventures. Again, it's a collection of a lot of rules. Maybe you'll understand what I'm saying. And to the second part of your question, you said when there's no product designer involved, how will you find the solutions of the design? I believe every individual, especially someone who's say founded a company, started a company, is a smart person, and everyone has the capacity to think. And the first and the foremost thing a designer needs to do is to think and understand what needs to be done. Maybe the person, the co-founder who is himself designing, may not have the best visual sense, may not build an interface which is aesthetically pleasing, but it'll still be functional because he knows his product the best and he can think as well. So it's totally fine if he comes up with functional, not so good looking interface. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Siddharth asks another question. Whom does the designer report to? I strongly believe a designer, well, okay, I'll change my answer a bit. Designer can report to anyone, but a designer should always have a mentor who is also a designer. A designer cannot, I won't recommend a designer having a mentor who is a product manager or engineering manager, because your learning would be at stake. Because the people you're reporting to, whoever you're reporting to, is probably just involved in managing you, your appraisals or, your growth in the company, or maybe certain decisions. But if you want to grow as a designer, your mentor has to be another designer who has more experience and more skill and knowledge than you. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Anuj says, thank you, welcome Anuj. Siddharth says, how many designers does Swiggy has? Swiggy has, as of today, 16 designers. That includes me, of course. That includes my VP, who I report to. That includes 2 dedicated researchers, 1 dedicated illustrator, and the rest of them are mostly full stack UX designers like me. That's the structure. And yeah, we plan to hire around 2 more people. So, if you think you are the one, or anyone who would want to join Swiggy, please do reach out to me. Love to look at. Vaibhav says, these companies like Swiggy, Zomato are killing small businesses by giving heavy discounts which individual restaurants cannot give. On Swiggy, the price of dish is very less, but if a customer does walk in, the price of the dish is high. Soon, small business will vanish and people will become unemployed in India. Oh, yeah, that actually sounds scary, when you write it that way. But I'm sure, there are different ways of looking into it. Again, a question I'm not qualified to answer. My business folks in my company would have a better reason as to why this is justified, what we're doing. But as far as my little knowledge goes, yes, we are giving discounts, but I believe many of those discounts are actually borne by the restaurants. Yeah, because they, at the end of the day, are giving the discounts, and not necessarily Swiggy or Zomato is bearing all those discounts. Yeah, some of them, some discounts may be borne by the company, but majority of the discounts, as far as I know, are borne by the restaurants. So what they get in return, what they get is a lot of orders. Yeah. So I think that's how it works in any business. But I'm not completely qualified to answer that question. Okay, Rakesh says, thank you. Welcome, Rakesh. I hope I answered your question. Donovan says, thank you again. Welcome, everyone. Okay, Sandeep has a question. It says, experience versus design degree. What's your preference while hiring a designer? Neither. These are not the qualifiers which I see when I hire a designer. Certain things which I see when I'm hiring a designer, the first and the foremost thing is his problem-solving capability. I throw certain problems here and there. Need not be a design problem. The candidate may not even know that I have given him a problem. It could be just a friendly conversation, like two friends are having. You say something, you try and get the opinion of the other people, and based on how the person reacts to that question, you get to know a lot. Of course, that's not the only way of filtering. That's one of the initial filterings that I personally do. That's something that I have been doing on my, all through my career. So that's something I do. Experience and design degree does matter, but these are not the first few things that I see. Experience is really a number of years. If someone has a 6 years of experience, it just means that he has done the same work for 6 years. Doesn't necessarily say that the person is better than someone who has done it in 2 years. It could also be possible that someone could achieve the same things in 2 years, but you cannot undermine that person saying that you just have 2 years of experience versus that person has 6. Right? If I were to compare those two individuals who are same, one with 6, one with 2, I probably would pick up the 2 because he's a faster learner. And design degree, I personally don't have one, so maybe I'm not the right person to say it, but I think I've mentioned in one of the answers before. I have seen that, I'm an engineer, by the way, I've said at the beginning of the video. So being an engineer, having a technical background actually helped me being a better designer, I feel, especially when I work for tech startups. So having a design degree gives you a lot of exposure to the different processes and different rules and stuff, which say I, as a non-design degree holder, doesn't know, but it's something that you of course can figure out. Yep, I hope that answers your question. So here's another question. It says, how can another company steal you from Swiggy? What would be that will convince you? See, it's not about stealing. You just go when you feel that you're saturated. Okay, let me answer this question a different way. When should a designer switch from one company to another? Okay, let me answer that question instead of this. Yeah. So first thing is learning. If you feel that you're not learning enough in this company, just look back. 1 month back, what you knew and what you know today. Is there a difference? There's a lot of difference. If there is, then it's good. You've learned something. But if you look back and feel that 1 month back, what you knew and what you know today is essentially the same thing, which means you're stagnant, which means you're not growing. Now, when I said 1 month, the 1 month is, it's a subjective, it's a variable, depending on what kind of company you work for. This timeline, this 1 month can either be less or more. But yeah, essentially the fundamentals are same. You go back to your past and you see, are you a better designer today than what you were back then? If yes, then maybe you're doing fine. Then there are other, lesser important things. Of course, I wouldn't say lesser, but next important thing are you being compensated well? Are you being paid well? If yes, yes, then you can stay on. Is the company taking care of you? Does the company respect you? Yeah, if all those things are happening, it's a good case. If you see that you are just a pixel pusher, someone's giving you orders and you are merely working for that person just because that person doesn't know how to use a tool, you're not at the right place, because you will never grow that way, right? I hope that answers your question, at least to some extent. Akshay Somani has, how much Swiggy, Zomato and Uber Eats is earning profit per month in crores in spite of giving heavy discounts? Profits, my friend, I do not know, because I work for the product side of it. There's a business side who looks into the money, the profits and stuff. To be frank, all that I care about money right now in Swiggy is that my salary reaches my account on the right time. So that is happening by God's grace. So yes, I'm not qualified to answer about the profits. Okay. Arhan says, kindly tell us about a recent challenge you faced in your job and how you approached that challenge. Oh yeah, there were many. Well, at my job, if you ask me, I cannot speak about that because I'm working on something which is a little different from what it's a new thing which I'm working on, which I shouldn't be speaking until the product goes live. Maybe we keep in touch, and once the product is out in the market, we can discuss about it then. But I can tell you what I'm working on is very interesting, is very challenging. It might seem like a trivial problem, but when you jump into it, you will understand that the challenges and the things that we're doing are massive, and there are a lot of uncertainty. So I'm really having a good time working on it. So yep, let's catch up maybe sometime in the near future. So Shubham says, enough questions for today, dear startup talkers. Let him breathe a bit. We'll be turning off comments in the next 30 seconds. Okay, let's see till the time what we have. Siddharth Mohan says, you guys at Swiggy use Mac or Windows? Mac for the win, always Mac. I cannot imagine, going back to Windows because, I just got used to it. The touchpad or, the keys, the configuration. Yep. There are a few odd things in the Mac. I don't know why pressing enter on the Mac would rename a file. Some things are weird, but I just got used to it, so Mac it is. Thanks for the lovely answer, Sandeep. Welcome, Sandeep. Shubham says, lots of love from the community for this community for AMA. We are glad that our family asked questions, came up with issues, and Saptarshi answered them amazingly and insightfully. Thank you, Shubham, if you feel my answers were insightful. Thanks for joining the AMA, and I hope this helps our fellow startup talkers while they're designing their products. Cheers. Thanks a lot, Shubham. It was great. It was an honor being here with all of you and answering your questions. I know time is short. I couldn't have taken all the questions that you might have had, but I'm always available beyond this Q&A. Of course, I'm on Facebook, I'm there on Instagram, and I'm quite active. So feel free to send me a friend request, follow me on Instagram, or drop me a message with any question that you have. I would be more than happy to answer. And if you're out here in Bangalore and if you really want to know something, let's catch up over a cup of coffee. I'm all up for it. Yeah. All right, guys. I think we're almost done. So Shubham, thanks for inviting me. I think I can end the live video now. Yep. Bye-bye. Good night, everyone. See you again.